Well, welcome everyone. We're back with Punish for Protecting, and we have another story right now that you guys have been waiting for. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do it yesterday, but we are doing it now, even better. Right now, I actually have on the phone with me, I have Sandra Grazzini Rucki. And today we will be telling the true story, not the 2020 lying version, the actual truth as we break that apart. I also have with me today Michael Volpe, and he is actually the journalist, and he has been very intricately a part of this case. So welcome, welcome, welcome.
All right, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And I want to thank Ted Fogg also for airing this on several broadcasts. Appreciate your work. Thank you. So Sandra, hello. Everybody's been waiting to hear from you.
Say hello.
Hello. Hi. It's kind of a split second since I'm here. Hi. How are you doing?
Okay. Well, we're more concerned about how you're doing, and we thank you for your tenacity and what you've had to deal with. I'm happy to have you here, letting America know right now that Sandra doesn't have internet access and she's limited to the phone at this point in time. Sandra, did you want to kind of touch base on, well, first of all, we already did one story with Michael, breaking down a lot of the lies and showing the criminal, David Rucki, showing his criminal background. That's all over the, it's all on YouTube, and it's it's on several television stations. It's been airing from California to New York. The interview that I did with Michael, breaking down all the lies that Footprints in the Snow, in April 2020 version of their version of the story, just to cause this diabolical lie against you and your family. But why don't you start a little bit with the fact that this started back in, I think, 2012. 2011. And then that
me and my husband David Rucki did an amicable divorce. Everything was done, sealed. It was done. Approximately 30 to 45 days after our divorce, David then retained another attorney and had our case reopened. I can kind of zip through it. Since that day happened, my whole life has been in turmoil. Prior to that, had never committed a crime. I was a flight attendant at that time for 28 years, American Airlines. Loved my children. I was involved in everything from pageants to, helping, volunteering, but most of all, my biggest thing was my children. After that, things just developed, and he requested a specific judge, not the judge that was originally assigned, who was the Wormiger. He requested David Knudson. Once David Knudson got on my case, that is when me and my children's lives became irrelevant. We can fast forward.
Sandra, let me just cut you off. Approximately how many orders did David Knudson tell you? How many different orders court orders did he mandate that you follow?
Not to the amount right now, but it is 4,078 orders.
4,078 orders.
Okay, 4,078 orders. And here's something that I just want to do a quick, just tell America right now, and then we're going to get you back because I don't want to lose any time with you. You guys need to know the true story. This video needs to go viral. It needs to go viral, okay? Because this is the issues that we have in this country that this mother has had to suffer, and the children had to suffer and endure. We're going to go through this, and how 2020 lied, blatantly lied. They did a whole spin on this that has nothing to do with the truth. Zero to do with the truth. Why is this so important? Why is the truth so important? Well, we're talking about another family, one of millions, that the family court, child predator services, and then all the networking and all the evil that stands behind it, the national media, 2020, okay, that put this spin on things. And now you as a viewing audience are being duped like sheeple, like lambs to the slaughter. Okay, being fooled. And that should make you really irate that this is what people are reporting. So we're going to get to the bottom of this. We're going to speak the truth about what's actually happened. And that led to that day in April 2016 footprints in the snow in April. People, go ahead, Sandy. Tell us more about.
Well, a lot of things that 2020 was very well aware at that time, and this isn't about money, but they were very well aware of David's criminal history, and David has an extensive criminal history. They were aware that David came to the home after the divorce and threatened to kill me and the children. He also called back and left a recording of 6 gunshots and said, like I promised. They are also aware, 2020 is aware, and Elizabeth Vargas was made very aware of all that, as well as the fact that he owns 5 homes, he's a multi-millionaire, and that I have nothing in living on the streets. He was aware of all this, but yet they chose not to expose it.
Yeah, they chose not to expose it, and the state of Minnesota is a wicked, vile state. I'm dealing with mother after mother after mothers that are being re-victimized by the state of Minnesota. I've never seen anything as I see it all over the place, but this is off the charts. And we're going to continue to shine the light into this state and into the exposing of these people, these dark people, because what they're doing is utter abuse to families, absolute and utter abuse to families and victims of domestic violence.
Sandra, as a result of your case, what do certain men who walk into a divorce lawyer's office, what do they ask for?
Now it's standard here in the state of Minnesota. They request a lucky divorce. That is a divorce, which means that the mother, will not have any contact with their children. They will completely be devastated and left with nothing in order to pay alimony and child support. That is what you're talking about. It's now called
now, earlier today, I did an interview of Jody, and she's a mother that's been abused violently, and that's actually Iowa. Okay, and so I'm not saying that this isn't happening in other states, but I am seeing a horrific pattern of abuse in Minnesota. Horrific. I mean, and these kids are calling me. These kids are calling me who are victims of this.
Hey, Francesca, we've only got a half hour, so can we get going on this story?
The reason that this case is so important is the fact that on September 7th of 2012, I was banned by a court order that hadn't even been signed. I received a phone call from my attorney. I had 2 hours to vacate my home, leave all my personal possessions, everything, but most of all my children. And I was ordered not to have any contact with anyone, including my children, my family, my relatives, schoolmates, anybody that I had met prior to that date, and to leave the state. That is what my court order stated. And I would be arrested and jailed if I arrested anybody, or if I didn't leave.
Which, in fact, is what they did later.
5.5 years, and I've been out here with living on the street with no medical care, no dental care, no money, and basically going from home to home trying to survive. That's what people need to know. If it comes to this level, that people are thrown out with nothing. I mean, I'm living another.
Sandra,
I'm listed on the home, but yet, and I'm ordered to pay for these homes, yet I am living homeless.
Sandra, that sounds really bad. I'm sure that 2020 mentioned all of that in the broadcast.
No, they never did.
But they didn't. And this is what I pointed out to them. Can you explain to me why I have nothing? Why, when I was finally released from jail, I was went in with clothes. You even took the clothes that I had on my because you stated that David Lucky will retain anything and everything I ever received, whether it's a gift, whether it's clothing, whether it's money. He gets 100%. They took my clothing the day I left the jail and then threw me some clothes out of a basket and said, you can't leave the jail in the clothes you're wearing, which were, by the way, were a pair of jeans, t-shirts, and tennis shoes, and then the clothing was even mine. And they took that.
So Sandra, basically, because I want to let them have a kind of like a basis, your children had already been running away from the abuse in your family with the husband.
Right. This is very important. On September 7th, 2012, when your children came home and found you weren't there, what happened?
They all ran away.
They all ran away in fear. And
all right. Now, I'm sure that 2020 pointed out that and your children then ran away, 2 of your children on April 19th, 2013. I'm sure that 2020 pointed out that this was actually the second time they ran away.
No, they did not point out that this was the second time, nor have they pointed out when they recasted the show that after they got custody of Samantha and Gianna, that Samantha ran away again for the 3rd time, and David had her committed. They Dr. Rookie had her committed for 7 hours for running away the third time.
Right. I want everyone to understand, after 2020's broadcast aired, her daughter Samantha ran away for a third time, and then 2020 rebroadcasted and pretended like they were a happy family.
Now hold that right there. What exact date and time did they rebroadcast that? Do you remember the exact date and time or approximate?
It was March of 2017, I believe.
Okay,
I don't
so
remember.
there you go. So there you go right there. I mean, there you go right there. So look at the spin and look at the story they're telling people. And let's
right. And I should note that I contacted them many times with documentation. They gave me a 700-word statement. More than half the articles are less than 700 words that you read in any newspaper or internet. So that's more than half the articles that are written. Mm-hmm. And then I kept contacting. I contacted so much they told me to stop contacting them. So they rebroadcast this thing, knowing everything I knew, knowing all of the documentation I gave them, and they continued to broadcast completely. It's propaganda.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, you're a journalist. Tell them. I mean, I introduced you the first time we did the interview, mm-hmm. and
right. So let me just explain what Sandra gave them was a 41-page packet, and we've since found a lot more documentation of David Rucky being violent. Right. So, for instance, one of the things that they had was a statement from the neighbors, the Martins, who said that they've seen him threaten his wife, that he truly berates his wife for being a bad mother. And they said, well, we couldn't get him on the air, so we decided not to put that in. They received a police report where David Rucky threatened the life of his in-law. And they said, well, that's the in-law. They received other police reports that said, well, that's a motorist. Well, that's a bar patron. Basically, every police report, they said it didn't matter. There was one police report they received which occurred right after the marriage ended, in which David Rucky ran up through the house, started throwing pictures off the wall, and threatened to kill Sandra. And they said, well, that happened after the marriage. And Sandra, that day you had a...
He jumped on the bed and took a pillow over my head, and there was an eyewitness. There was another flight attendant in the bathroom.
Wait. Now, if there was an eyewitness in the bathroom, then I'm sure 2020 spoke to them and put them on the air.
No, I gave them her name, and she testified that she was in the bathroom, and she heard the commotion, walked around the bathroom. David Rucky looked up and saw her while he was on top of me. While I was sitting on the bed, he was on top of me, and he ran out the door. He testified at his...
Well, he looks like such a nice...
Say how devious 2020 is. They're demanding police reports. They have a witness who they refuse to interview, who can just describe with her own eyes what she saw. And they refuse to interview her. And this is a colleague of yours. Was this the only incident of violence that she saw?
No. I had known this other side attendant for over 25 years. She had stayed at my house numerous times, and she had told at one time when Sean Dooley had contacted her that over the 25 years I had witnessed David Rucky physically abuse the children as well as her. This is what she told Sean Dooley from 2020, and they ignored all that.
Right. Hey, I just want folks to know there's someone from a restricted number calling me. I don't know if they're trying to interrupt the broadcast.
Okay. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, you get as many calls as I do every second.
All right. So now describe So your kids ran away on September 7th. Were you? Oh, you know what? I lost her. Hold on one second. So let me continue until I get her back. Her kids ran away, and then at that point, she was allowed to see them twice between that time and April 19, 2013. And so once I get her back on the air, we'll try to pick up the story from there. Hold on. Okay. Hey, Sam, so we're now at April 19, 2013. What do you remember about that day?
I was at a Kinko's in another city in the state of Minnesota, And I received a phone call from my daughters. They said that their father had abused them. They were out in the streets. That what Tammy had done, Tammy Love.
That's his sister.
What David's sister had done to them. They were out in the street, and this was it. They were running with or without my help, but they were going. Will you help us or not?
And what did you do?
And I said, where are you? And they said, we're running down the highway. They said, get away, we're running down the highway.
Okay.
And I'm like, and I didn't know what to do. And they repeated, Mom, with or without your help, we're not back. We're not going through this again.
Okay. Now, when you picked them up, they told you about the events of that day that led up to that. What did they tell you?
Everything. They told me that Nancy Grazzini Olson, which is my sister, had told them they were going for pizza, but they had to make a stop at the police station. So the girls didn't want to get out of the car, and my sister forced them out of the car into the police station. When they got in there was a group of police officers that surrounded them. They said that Tammy Love was there, and they were ushered into a room. And on that room, there was a speakerphone in the middle of a table, and it was Dr. James Gilbertson.
Hold on, before don't go further. Dr. James Gilbertson had been appointed to this case on September 7th, 2012. So at this point, he'd only known the Rucky family for approximately 7 months. Go ahead.
And according to the medical reports, he had only met with the children 4 times in those 7 months.
Okay, and what did he say at this conference?
He said, this is the way it's going to go, and this is the plan from the beginning.
And what was that plan?
That you are going to go live with Tammy, your father is getting custody, and you are going back to him. You will never see your mother again.
Okay, and so then they ran short.
The girls broke down, they started screaming, begging the police to help them. They said they were telling the police, they were telling them this and that, and everything that Tammy had done, what David had done, their father had done. They were pleading for help, and please, we'll go anywhere, we'll go to jail, we'll go to foster, please don't give us back to him. And the police said, we had to do what the judge had ordered. But keep in mind, the judge, which we found out later, which was David Knutson, never even signed that order until the next day. So they were executing orders that were not even legally signed.
And listen, these cops put these girls into a police car, drove them to their house, correct, and escorted them into the house. So when they say we're just following orders, no, they were going above and beyond that order. All right. So then the girls were hidden on a ranch for abused children, mind you. So, you know, people say they're not abused. They just spent 2.5 years on a ranch for abused children.
They were not hidden. What happened was I had went to Dee Dee. I didn't know where to go. I had no money. I was using a friend's car. I had nothing. I was on the streets myself. Dee Dee simply made a phone call, and she said, I know somebody that helps abused kids. When we got to Gina and Dubs, they interviewed the children themselves, and they came back to me and said, this is one of the most severe cases of abuse that we've ever seen. At this point, we have seen over 380 children, and we've never seen a case as extreme as this. We are willing to help you. So
okay.
They took the kids in, and then I proceeded with Michelle McDonald to
That's her attorney.
The court and plead for help.
Right, and I'm sure once you pled for help for the court, they saw the error of their ways and everything was fine.
No, the kids actually had issued audio statements. They did written statements.
And who did they send those audio statements to?
The state, the legislators, even the governor Dayton received.
Every single politician in the state of Minnesota received this, and they are all now claiming they don't know anything about abuse. Every single politician who was a politician in that state on April 19, 2013, received the videotape from these girls. They not only did nothing, hold on one second, I lost her again. Not only did they do nothing, but they're now claiming that Sandra is the bad one. Having received this, they saw, and I'll get this back now. The error of their way. The next thing that happens is a custody hearing. And keep in mind, these two girls, they're still missing. So I guess you call it a custody hearing in absentia. Sam, are you there?
Yes.
All right, listen, if I call her Sam, that's what she goes by. Sandy is what her ex-husband calls her. He's the only one. If you're familiar with her, just call her Sam. But all right, so now we're up to September, I think, 10th and 11th of 2013. There's a custody hearing. So describe the events of those 2 days.
On September 10th or 11th, whatever day, I can't remember which point, Michelle McDowell, who was my family court attorney and still is, had requested subpoenas, documents, police reports. She had more than 24 witnesses to come in to testify regarding David Rucky's abuse of myself and my children. At approximately 10 o'clock that night, I was at Michelle's office. I was at Michelle's office all night long, actually. She received in her fax a motion in limine where Judge David Knudson of Dakota County, Minnesota, dismissed any and all evidence. She could not have a single witness, a single piece of document, nothing. The only thing he was going to allow was me to testify. I testified that day. Michelle did an outstanding job. And then he put, which was completely full, that it was over and there would not be another hearing the next day.
Wait, now before you go on, before the trial even commenced, Michelle also filed something else.
Yes, she filed a federal lawsuit against Judge David Knudson in the amount of $355 million.
Now, since Now, since he was a defendant in a lawsuit brought by her on your behalf, he recused himself.
No, he did not. She said, it doesn't matter that you just filed a lawsuit for $355 million against me. I can be neutral in this case.
And I'm sure with everybody watching, he was neutral. What happened the second day? Was he neutral the second day?
No. The second day we got in there, Michelle was doing an outstanding job. She was actually completely outing this judge, this so-called psychiatrist, James Gilbertson. She totally nailed him and was totally nailing guardian ad litem, Julie Friday, for lying, perjury. She got her on everything. When it got so bad that they couldn't, because Knudson kept interrupting while Michelle was trying to cross-examine her. Finally, Knudson said, we're taking a break. And at that time, he's like, we're taking a break for 30 minutes. He just shut it down, and that was only like 40 minutes into the trial. We all stood up. Judge Knudson walked around the corner. The next thing I knew, I had three officers up on me. One grabbed me by the shoulder, pushed me in the chair. The other two grabbed Michelle and said, you're under arrest. They hauled her away. I said, what's going on? They said, your attorney is under arrest. Nobody knew what was going on, so we all went out to the hallway. I was with a few supporters that still had come back the next day. Because remember, Knudson told them nothing was going on, and yet he proceeded to have a hearing. We were approached by a sheriff of Dakota County, and they said, your attorney has been jailed, arrested, your trial is over, leave the courthouse now. That is what we did. Now,
since the sheriff said your trial is over, I'm sure it actually was over. Hold on, let me get her back. To no one's surprise, the trial was not over. And by the way, that's a blatant violation of somebody's 14th Amendment right to not be at their own trial.
Have a hearing. We were approached.
You back?
Yeah, I'm really bad.
Okay. So after you left the courtroom, did the trial continue?
Yes, I found out later that Judge Knudson had court-ordered on a verbal order to have Michelle, my attorney, Michelle McDonald, placed into a wheelchair, handcuffed to the wheelchair. All her property had been taken from her. She didn't even have glasses, a piece of paper, nothing. And he repeatedly ordered her to continue the trial or to give up. I don't know the correct legal term, but basically said, you either give up.
All right, now I want to place something into context. It was from this particular hearing that Judge David Knudson gave your ex sole custody. When 2020 broadcast, all they said was David Rucky received full custody and he believes that validates his position. Did they mention that your attorney had to conduct it in a wheelchair?
No, they didn't mention that, and they implied that he had received it back when the kids were missing. And that's
now that must be because you didn't tell them. Did you forget to tell them that you're?
No, I told them.
In fact,
I told them again.
In fact, isn't it true that they spent minutes in video, which just happened to wind up on an editing room floor, going through the circumstances of that day?
That is true.
So in other words, they knew, they even videotaped it, they just decided it wasn't important.
That's correct.
All right, now let's fast forward to October of 2015. And by this point, you had been under indictment. It was a sealed indictment for your role in hiding your children from the abusive monster that is your ex. What you were staying at a timeshare after a flight, and what do you remember happening?
And my another coworker had come in to visit me. At approximately, I think it was 1 a.m, I was in bed. My coworker was out on the couch in the Embassy Suites kind of thing, where there's like 2 little rooms. And all I remember is waking up with them screaming, "Are you Sandra Grazzini lucky?" And thank God to this day I did not move, because I opened my eyes and there was 4 shotguns in my face.
And at this point, you must have a long criminal record at this point.
No, I've never been arrested for anything. I mean, I have a speeding ticket.
I want everyone to understand that the U.S. Marshal Service, and by the way, one of the people in the U.S. Marshal Service who visited you that day, his name is Sean Newland. Is that right?
That is correct.
Before you go on, there is a woman named Christy Newberry Brooks who has a similar case out of North Carolina, and he happened to conduct the search into her whereabouts when she went missing with her daughter as well. So this guy, Sean Newland, is an attack dog for abusive men who go after their protective exes. So go on. After the 4 shotguns, what happens?
Okay, they left me sitting there. Like I said, I wasn't dressed appropriately, but they left me sitting there. My friend was in the other room. Then they grabbed me by the arm.
Now, your friend, did he have anything to do with hiding your kids?
Absolutely not.
Wait. Does he have a criminal record at this point?
No.
So I'm sure that he was just sitting relaxed and just having a conversation.
No, they had him face down on the ground. He was handcuffed behind his back, and they had holding 1 shotgun to his head.
Right. This is a guy who just happened to be in the same room with her. Okay, so then you were brought into the room with him, and then what happens next?
What happened was he kept screaming from the other room, "How long are you going to make her stand there? Are you going to allow her to get dressed?"
Right.
And then I said, "I need my glasses." They said, "You can't have them. You can only have what's on you. So you're taken as you are, with no shoes, no glasses." Same thing they did to Michelle. And I was hauled away. I was brought out into another room, into like a little main room, it's like a hotel room. And he was sitting there in handcuffs in a chair. And they said, "You have to talk to us." And I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "You are a gun runner, a human trafficker, and a kidnapper of other people."
Wait, now, let me cut you off. Those are very serious charges, so I'm sure they found tons and tons of evidence of human trafficking and gun running and child trafficking, since they were accusing you of these very... I'm sure those were hiding AK-47s then.
No, we're fine. We don't have anything. I mean, it's just our 2 flight bags.
All right. So I want everybody to understand the U.S. Marshals shows up with their version of SWAT team. I think they have a technical name for it, but it's here with the same stuff. And they accused her of gun running, child trafficking, and kidnapping, and they find 2 flight attendant bags. So then they must have apologized to you and realized they were wrong.
I'm sorry, Michael, what did you say?
They must, when they realized there was no evidence of gun running or child trafficking and kidnapping, they must have apologized and said they were wrong.
No, they started railing me. I knew it was absolutely horrific enough where, I'll say his name is Jack, kept screaming from the couch, "Why are you going after her like this? She's done nothing. What is going on? What is going on?" And they said that I was a felon fugitive. And I said, that. They said, you're a convicted felon who's a fugitive. I go, convicted felon? I've never been arrested in my life. How can I be a convicted felon?
I want to clarify one thing. Them claiming she's a fugitive is a bald-faced lie. And their public affairs officer, his name is Dave Oney, O-N-E-Y, propagated that lie to me. And the reason I know that's a lie is the warrant that they filed was sealed, which means she's not supposed to know about it. If she's not supposed to know about it, she can't be a fugitive. Those guys lied to her. Dave Oney lied to me. And since I'm a member of the press, Dave Oney lied to all of you. All right. So,
basically, so then they broke out. They finally released Jack, took the handcuffs off of him. They took me out into the street, put me on a curb, and sat me on the street. And they started to argue with the state of Minnesota.
What were they arguing about?
That's what I heard. They were arguing with the state of Minnesota, saying, you told us that she was a convicted felon. You told us she was on what do you mean keeping it within the state? What do you mean we can't take her to custody? And they came back and told me that Minnesota said it was a glitch and a misunderstanding.
Hey, does anyone believe it was a glitch and a misunderstanding? Yeah, me neither. Me neither. Hey, by the way, there's been a lot of glitches in this case. That sealed arrest warrant, through a quote-unquote glitch, was leaked to the press. So the sealed arrest warrant was leaked by glitch, and this is a glitch. There seems to be a lot of glitches. So what happened? Well, keep going. What happened for the rest of the evening?
So basically, they said they were arguing with the state of Minnesota. No judge would sign it, and the federal marshals were very upset. Said, we've never come after somebody as being this, and now you're telling us she's not. And then they came to me and they said, well, they're telling me it's a glitch, but you have some warrant against you. We don't know what's going on, but we're turning you over to Osceola County.
That's in Florida.
Osceola County on a warrant that I didn't know about. She didn't even know I was in. And then I was put into jail in Osceola, which is Kissimmee, Florida.
Okay, now were you in there with like the drunk drivers and the suspended driving with a suspended license or something?
No. They didn't even tell me. But when I was booked in to Osceola, I was booked under the charges of the same as the federal marshals had said. And Osceola County going, well, these are her charges. These are federal offenses. Why do we have her now? And they said, by order of Minnesota. And the officer said, I don't even know what's going on. Nobody can figure out what's going on. We're just told. So they kept me on the highest level. They said I was a convicted felon, that I had all these charges against me. Then I was ordered to be into a cell with a woman, Victoria Ramos, who had actually shot a man in the face.
Allegedly.
She was in it for first-degree murder.
Right. I think at this point she was still being charged with it, but she was in there with somebody charged with murder. And what did
roommates? Why are you here? Why are you with me? I don't get roommates. You have to be in the same category. And that's when they said they're talking about parental deprivation. And she's like, parental deprivation? I only get roomed with other murderers. You can't put somebody. But I was kept in the highest level of security, which was a 23-hour lockdown in Osceola County.
Well, I'm sure once you got to leave the prison, things got better for you, though.
Oh God, no. I was taken in the middle of the night by Texas Transport, which, by the way, when we tried to sue them for what they did to me, they rechanged their name and resold the company to the white.
Can I add, when I called and I said Rocky, they said that was under previous management. We have no comment.
Exactly. That's Pig Pole's attorney when they called. I was taken in the middle of the night. I said, what are you taking me for? I said, I'm not physically fit for any type of travel. And they said that Dakota, Minnesota has already filed your medical for travel, and they said that you have no medical issues. I said, that is not true.
All right, but since it was difficult for you to travel, I'm sure they gave you accommodations, probably like a nice bed, some water.
No, they said I was one of the most severe criminals that they'd ever had. So I was handcuffed and shackled and put into a dog cage in the back of the truck. And that's where I was left. And I was taken from Florida to Georgia, Alabama, Louisiana, to Dallas, Oklahoma, Kansas City, to remember them all. Michigan, Wisconsin, and then finally, when they approximately 6 to 8 days later, delivered me to Minnesota, they're like, something's not right, and they said, oh, it was a glitch. Were you guys told she was
Oh, it's a glitch. It's another glitch.
That's how they stated when they got me off.
Yeah.
It was a glitch.
All right, but since
we don't understand. Something's not right here with this girl. She's too
right, since there was a lot of glitches, I'm sure you received a reasonable bail once you got to Minnesota.
No, actually I didn't. I contacted Michelle McDonald, who is my family court attorney, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. She's like, well, they've arrested you for parental deprivation. Obviously, I said I've never been arrested before. I'm a flight attendant. I don't drink, I don't do anything. And she said they scheduled a hearing for 11 a.m. So I got in line that morning with everybody else for my bail. And as I was walking in line with approximately another 20 people, I was pulled out of line. And they pulled me out. They got me in line at 9 a.m. I said, why are you taking me? My hearing's not till 11. And they said, there's been a change of plans. I was taken down a dark hallway up by the judge's offices and brought into a room. In this room
where I'm sure your attorney argued successfully to reduce your bail.
Well, she couldn't because they changed it. They told her it was at 11 and brought me to this courtroom at 9 a.m. in front of Erica McDonald. And she said that Judge David Knudson has issued a $1 million bail on you. And she unfortunately got called away at the last minute, so therefore I am stepping in. But you have now been given a $1 million bail, and it will be a cash bail, not a percentage.
And parental deprivation is presumed probation. Maximum sentence is a year. She got $1 million. I'm sure your stay at the jail was nice, and you were well treated, though.
There was a lot of things that happened in the jail. Unfortunately, I can't say a lot, but I can tell you that I was given something to eat. I got a new cellmate, and approximately 2 hours after I received this specific thing for me to eat, woke up on the ground in a pile of blood with a broken nose and a skull. I was taken to the hospital. They refused, other than they checked me to see if I had AIDS, which came back negative. They said that unless American Airlines pays for my medical care, there's nothing they could do. There's another whole thing with Officer Timothy Gonder, the Dakota County Sheriff, that showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing. I was strapped to the bed. I was stripped down. He refused to leave. The doctor asked him to leave. I mean, this goes on and on.
Okay.
But I still suffer today from the broken nose, which has never been set, as well as rotator cuff. They busted out my back. The broken, yeah. There's huge things that I suffered in jail.
I'm sure that 2020 pointed all of this out in their broadcast.
No, I told them all about it. In fact, at that time, I told them that the broken nose actually happened when I woke up in the pile of blood. It happened before I forgot the type of hearing it was, for the hearing scheduled the next morning, which I was very excited for because I knew I was going to get out. And it happened, so it was very strange that this incident, where I ended up in the hospital, it happened the day I forgot the name of it, the type of hearing.
Now, since you shared a cell,
my attorney was not even informed. So my attorney showed up at the courthouse, but yet it was all over the news
that you had been released. Now, I want to clear something up. Since you were in this cell with one other person, and there were bars keeping anyone away, it must have been a really simple investigation, and this other inmate was charged with assault and added 5 to 10 years to their sentence.
No, set up.
Hey, can you hear now?
It's a clear setup.
That night, the next day, she was gone. Now, people next to our cells were trying to tell the officers that they heard a commotion, that they heard a banging, they heard whimpering. They said there must have been some type of fight. Something happened, and we think Sam was beat up. And the officers completely refused it. I was brought into the, I think it's called the captain of the jail, and he said, we're just going to dismiss this if you want things to go nice for you. So we're not going to talk about what happened. And they did no investigation. They just completely ignored it.
Okay. So let's talk about your trial. We have a mountain of evidence that your ex-husband is an abusive monster. So once that was brought into the trial, I'm sure everything went well for you.
No, they wouldn't allow anything in. And they even showed, I think it's on the transcripts now, where Dakota County is saying she has no money, so she can't afford to pay for the evidence. We're not allowing her to have it in. They denied me, I think it was 86% of all the evidence. They went so far, as Judge Karen Aspon said off the record, I'm not going to allow you to say these words. Now get a piece of paper and write this down. You are not allowed to talk about abuse, orders for restraining orders, orders for protection, abuse against children, sexual abuse against children. And she made me write all this stuff down that when I got on the stand, I was not even allowed to even refer to it.
I'm sure once your appellate attorney realized how restricted you were in your testimony, he or she made a huge issue of this, and it was overturned on appeal.
Oh, absolutely not. He went through the transcript. I produced him all the evidence. I will think Grigsby did the best.
Wait, let me stop you. Grigsby was the attorney who represented her in the trial. The appellate attorney is a guy named Stephen Russett. Keep going.
Yes, and Grigsby was very upfront. He said, "This is a shakedown. It doesn't even matter if you show up. It doesn't matter if you testify. It's a pre-planned. It's already a done deal. It doesn't even matter. I can add anything out." So I already knew going in. They were telling me that if I didn't admit guilty, I would be given 25 years to life. And I think
25 years to life for a sentence where the most you can get is a year, and presumed probation. What that means is if you have 5 felonies on your record, you'll get a year. If this is your first conviction, you'll get no time, generally. So since you had no criminal record before the trial, when you were convicted, you probably got probation.
Oh, absolutely not. I had never missed a hearing. Had been there like I was supposed to. I showed up. When I got convicted,
well, you know that
assumption that I might read.
That sucks. But this was well over a year ago. So fortunately, your prison sentence is over, and you can move on with your life.
Oh hell no! Oh God, no! I wish. No. I tried to execute my time and finish it up. The judge denied me and said I will not.
All right, listen. Let me cut you off. What the judge said was, you're going to do a year, but you're going to do it 15 days at a time over a 6-year period on top of the time she'd already done. And but since it's like a kind of a low-level offense, I'm sure you're free to do whatever you want. There's really no probation restrictions.
Oh, absolutely not. I was not only giving an extreme amount, which Grigsby did fight. He said that you gave her the amount of conditions that you don't even give to a murderer. You gave her conditions that a murderer doesn't get. And then what they did was, Judge Karen Aspon went so far as to add on top of my criminal the 4,078 or 4,090, whatever they are, orders of my family court on top of it, and said if you violate any one of those, I'm going to nail you.
Now, since your case is covered internationally, we've got all of these different media outlets. I'm sure they all pointed out that this was way too severe a sentence.
No, actually, the appellate court did overrule it, so it has to, I guess, go back to a hearing or something. I don't know.
But I'm sure that ABC noted that this is a very severe sentence and probably put a whole bunch of experts on to note that this is the kind of sentence a murderer gets. I'm sure they did that since they already did a.
No, they didn't do any of that. And they didn't
well, now the Minneapolis Star Tribune has covered this a lot. I'm sure they did it.
No, they did not.
Michael Broadcorp, he's a blogger. He's covered this a lot. I'm sure he pointed it out.
No, he did not. But Michael, he's paid for by David Luckey. He's a hired gun.
Now you have a local newspaper, the Sun Current. I'm sure they pointed it out.
No, they did not. They didn't point any of this out. They didn't bring up any of this information. None of this has been out to the public. Nobody knows about this.
It seems like
have the evidence to prove it.
It seems like the only information that the media thinks is important is information which makes you look bad.
Correct. And I even contacted the AP, Michael, to let them know that this is factual, and they will find somebody to send you the proof. And they even admitted that they received the evidence that contradicts what their statement was.
Wait, folks, since she just said that, the AP has an ethical duty to then update this case. So you need to call their Minneapolis bureau, that's 612-332-2727, and say, since you have evidence which contradicts the story you've been pushing, you have an ethical duty to update the story on the Grazzini-Rucki case. Are you going to do it? So folks, often say, what can I do? 612-332-2727 and ask them, are they going to update this case? When was the last time you've seen your children?
That one was in 13, April 19th. So the last time I saw my two girls, I have not seen Nico, which is my oldest son, since September 7th, 2012. But I've not seen my two little ones, Gino or Nia, since 2012.
Okay. Now, your ex-husband claims you alienated the kids. When presumably was the last time he saw his kids?
Well, he was never denied access to them. I was.
Okay, so he claims you're the parent alienator, but you haven't seen your kids in over 4 years. So since all of the media has been covering this, I'm sure, hold on, I lost her again. Let's ask her, so this media coverage, since she hasn't seen her kids in over 4 years, and she's
isn't that always the remedy if somebody is alienating, quote unquote, pretending to be
then you make them into the alienated.
Well, they get alienated, they get punished forever, all eternity.
Okay, so since your ex-husband accused you of being a parent alienator, and you're the one who hasn't seen your kids in 4 years, I'm sure the Minneapolis Star-Tribune has noted the irony.
No, they haven't done any of that.
I'm sure 2020 probably noted the irony.
No.
How about Michael Broadcourt?
No.
How about the AP? How about the AP?
Absolutely not. No, even when it pointed out to them, they have not done anything.
All right. Francesca, you got any questions, or are we done?
I just want to say one thing to you, Michael. You did a really good job of making complete and utter fools of these idiots, and you did a really great job of actually doing what they've been trying to do to her, or what they've been successful at doing to her, is telling a lie. So you've exposed it, and I'm really proud of you.
By the way, I'm flattered that you said that. But I should note I did that using publicly available information. Yeah. I didn't get any secret documents leaked to me. None of that. You know, the criminal history, you can just go online and get it. There is a little, you got to do some FOIAs and whatnot. But I wasn't brilliant. I just typed David Rucki's name into the central database, and all of his criminal history came up. Okay. So yeah, no, I did, and the entire media claims that this is sort of like a he said, she said, uncorroborated. And this is what I pointed out to the AP when I talked to them. I said, you guys are, and by the way, I spoke to an AP reporter, and she said, there's criminal reports. It's like 99 pages. She's like, 99 pages? I was like, now you have a duty. So again, 612-332-2727. If you're outraged, that's what you need to do, is call them and demand that they do a correct story on this. Hey, Sam, do you have any confidence that they're going to do the right thing?
Absolutely not. I'm very shy because I distrust a lot of people, especially the major media. I was lied to by 2020. The best thing that we have about 2020 is that we have the audio, and we can actually prove that they misled the entire broadcast. I think that's huge. We do have that in security. It has already been returned to an attorney.
What she means is her attorney, she taped the entire interview, all of the interviews, so she can release the entire interview, all of the stuff that they left out.
We can prove that they put in, they copied and pasted. We can prove all that.
Well, the bottom line is this is an extremely high-profile case, and they have a moral obligation to correct this story on 2020.
I forget extremely high profile. 5 kids are being abused by a monster. They have a moral obligation to set the record straight so they don't continue to be abused.
And as
it's really easy for you, Elizabeth Vargas, not to care because your kids aren't the ones living with David Rucky. I think if your kids were living with David Rucky, you'd have a little bit of a different perspective. It's easy for you not to care Brandon Stahl of the Minneapolis Star-Tribune because it's not your kids, not your nephews, not your cousins living with this monster. Same thing with you, Michael Broadcorp. It's easy for you to take his money because your kids don't have to deal with him. Other kids do. But, if you're supporting this guy, this monster the way you are, that makes you a monster.
Absolutely. And I want to talk about a little bit about, people that saw this poor dad on the news. I remember when I spotted it because I know I know this business so well. I knew right away he was a phony. I knew it just by looking at him. Then I delved in, and then I got more information out of you, from the first.
Right. Can I just?
But what's with this innocent? I'd like to ask.
Why don't you tell them what you found out from you have a source inside ABC, and what did this source tell you?
Yes, that they conducted a secret deal with David Rucky that he could edit and would only ask him specific questions. So he would be completely protected. Now,
right,
did you hear that? In order to get David Rucky on their broadcast, they allowed him to edit the broadcast and to pick and choose what questions he'd be asked. I'm sure they pointed that out, though, to the public. I'm sure the public knows that. It's not just you, right? They probably told everyone. Well, we should disclose that the only way we could get David Rucky on a broadcast is if he decided which questions we should ask him. I'm sure they told the public that.
No, they didn't tell the public that, and they didn't tell them that he was allowed to edit.
Right.
He always was.
Hey, you also have right. You also have a friend of a friend of a friend who works for Wells Fargo. And what did this individual tell you?
They actually went into an account and found that there was an $800,000 payment that went from Fred Rucky and Ricky Rucky out of Surprise, Arizona, which is David Rucky's parents, to David Knudsen through a revocable trust.
That sounds an awful lot like a bribe. So if law enforcement's listening, you can subpoena that record and see if this is a lie. Now, if you find a record from the...
When David Knudsen, the judge in this case, who started on living in a home that was approximately $200,000 and then moved to a home in Minnesota on a golf course that was worth over $1 million. We've already proven how much his wife makes, so can you explain to me? And then
by the way, this guy, David Knudsen, and his wife own 5 properties. Being a judge is doing really well for David Knudsen. He's not a public servant. He's breaking in some serious bucks. That sounds an awful lot like a bribe. I'm sure law enforcement is all over David Knudsen.
No, and the person from our friend from Wells Fargo, which you know, had already reported that to the FBI, and they have yet to take any action against it. It is blowing up.
Your ex-husband, he's got 4 homes, a multi-million-dollar business, 9 cars. So there's no way he could possibly get public assistance.
Now, when you say about 9 cars, what people don't understand is these are what's called classic cars. 9 cars don't mean nothing to nobody, but when they're classic cars, meaning these are like old cars, which you see on TV that was $120,000, $130,000.
If you've ever watched, if you've ever watched the show Counting Cars, that's the kind of cars she's talking about, like '57 Mustang, old Model Ts, that sort of thing. Now, a guy worth that much, there's no way he gets public assistance.
No. He's been on public assistance since he got custody. He receives 100% from the county, which is Dakota County, and the state. He receives welfare in a full 100% medical care and food stamps and housing. And the weird thing is that even though we proved, even his tax returns showed that he made millions of dollars, the state continues to give him whatever says medical. And then we are court ordered to pay for his medical, yet he receives 100%.
Now, since he receives public assistance, has nine classic cars, 5 homes, a multi-million-dollar business, there's no way you're also ordered to pay child support and alimony.
Well, absolutely. I'm ordered to pay alimony and child support.
Now, since I'm sure with the big salary you get, it's affordable.
My salary?
Yeah. Wait. Just so everybody's clear, what is your salary currently?
I'm 0.
Well, then obviously your attorney who was arguing this case, Michelle McDonald, just did an awful job and never pointed out to the court that you.
Wait a second. What about the percentage of your salary?
Today, if the Supreme Court of the state of Minnesota ruled that he can be a millionaire and I can be homeless with no income, and not even on the birth certificates, but I can be ordered to still pay him alimony and child support.
Hey, who is the head of the Minnesota Supreme Court?
Lori
Gilday. There's a Minnesota state rep named Tony Cornish. If you go look him up, he's recently being accused of sexual harassment. He told me that she is an honest judge and he has full confidence in her. But that was 2 days before he was accused of sexual harassment. So, there you go.
I heard, I'm not sure, they said today that the Supreme Court ruled that a multimillionaire and somebody homeless, it's irrelevant.
Right.
It doesn't matter. I still have to pay alimony and child support.
Alimony and child support. I want people to understand he was awarded 100% of the marital estate, and the judge thinks that he should then be subsidized to continue his lifestyle, even though I got 100%. That would be Judge David Knutson, who just happened to get an $800,000 wire from this man's parents. But I'm sure the wire.
Let's talk about lifestyle. My trust fund from my family.
Wait. Before you go on, her father was a self-made multi-millionaire, and left each of his. You have 6 siblings. Each of his 7 children enough money that no one would ever have to be concerned for money again, and yet you're homeless. Now, since your father left you among your siblings all of this trust, why are you homeless?
Because Judge David Knutson ordered my entire trust fund, as well as my children's trust fund that my parents left for them, to be given to David Rucky.
Well, I'm sure that was all fine because it probably all the trust and this divorce happened in the same county.
Everything was done in the same county.
No, but was the trust?
Actually, the trust was done in Hennepin County.
The trust was done in Hennepin County.
To another county and took it out of that county and brought it back. I should explain that. Yeah.
I want everyone to understand. A man made millions, wanted to make sure each of his children received enough to be set for their lives, put it into a trust in one county, and a judge in a divorce in a whole separate county snatched it from him, ignored his wishes now that he's dead, and handed it to her ex-husband, who had been abusing her. But this is probably wait. This is.
The attorney from Hennepin County actually came into Dakota County and on the transcripts told Judge David Knutson, "You cannot do this. It is a revocable trust. It was given to her at birth. It's not marriage related. It belongs to her." And on the transcript, David Knutson said, "I am the judge. I can do it, and I will."
They all talk like that until they find out they can't. Sick.
Yeah.
I'm the judge.
Well, I got. If you don't want to answer this, you don't have to, Sam. But this must be the comeuppance for your dad, because he was probably really supportive of you marrying David. So he deserves this because he didn't see this at all.
No, unfortunately, that's not true. I was told on my wedding day before I walked down the aisle, my dad said, "Don't do it." And the point was, my dad, David came, his parents dropped out of high school at 15. They have no education. His mother was knocked up at 16. I mean, they came from, unfortunately, the wrong side of the tracks. So when I got married, my father said, I've already put the writing on the wall. Please don't do this. Because my parents were very established. They had people there. They had senators and everybody there. I went through with it. And that is what I'm at fault for doing. Right. But I was told by my father not to do it.
right? If Sam's guilty of anything, she's guilty of not following that voice in your head that tells you you're doing something wrong. Though I should note, how old were you when you got married?
25.
Right. You know, if we all have to pay for the rest of our lives for the mistakes we made at 25,
Right. Yeah.
we all have a lot of problems. Are we done? Do we have any other questions?
I just want to know, Sam, for the sake of people that are watching this and hearing this incredible, unbelievable, abuse that you've had to endure and your family's had to endure by the hands of David Rucki and his payoffs to all these cowards that have allowed this to happen to you and your family. How are you holding up? How are you enduring this utter abuse to you? And knowing that you haven't even seen your kids, and slowly but surely he's managed to remove each one of them with the help of these corrupt networkings of people.
I wake up every morning. I don't know if that's it. I think every day I'm not going to see my kids. I will stop fighting for my kids. I'll never stop fighting for my children. But I'm only fighting because I don't want anybody to go through what I go through. Nobody should have to live jumping house to house, couch to couch, living this way. It's pretty bad. This is pretty extreme. My situation is pretty extreme. When people say, oh, you should go to a hospital and they have to care for you, no, they don't. That's not true. I just hope that I can hang on long enough to fight this and get justice for my children most of all. But the situation is bad.
So I just want you to know that we aired this today so that we can get you the exposure and that we can get you the real story told to American public, that we can discredit what 2020 and all these other people have done against you and your family. The suffering that you've endured and the amount of time that you've endured this, has lasted far, far too long. However, let's hope that starting now, this story will get out there. It will go viral. You will get the voice that you deserve, that you've so long deserved to have, because that's what this is really about. And also that your children now can hear your heart, their mother, because I know that they long for you, that they miss you, and that they know the truth despite of what gaslighting and whatever abuse that he's caused them. But it's important now you have an army behind you of people that know the truth, see the truth. There's something powerful that happens in exposing and shedding this light in your story. And that's what we're hoping that this is going to do today. I'm asking everybody that has seen this, that's watching this, to please, spread this video, spread this story out there. Let's get this everywhere. Pound different networks and so on and so forth, and share this video so that her voice and her story and her kids can get the redemption and the recompense that they so deserve, and that we continue to expose these public servants, okay, and the darkness that they're perpetrating on the lives of people, especially in the state of Minnesota, but what they've done to this particular mother and family. I don't care how much money they have. Remember, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, and eventually they do fall. I don't care what kind of clout they have. I don't care what kind of connections they have. There's always someone greater. Just remember that. Sandra, I thank you for your story today. We're with you. Our hearts are with you, and our prayers are with you.
All right. Can I end it with one other thing? There is one other villain that I want to point out. That's the Fathers' Rights Movement. That's an actual group, and they're headed by Tom Fiddler, who continues to put out propaganda about this piece. And the reason he does it is because the Fathers' Rights Movement is embedded with the concept of parental alienation. And it's really important for them that the public believe that this is parental alienation. So he's willing to spread lies. And Mr. Fiddler, the truth will be told, and then you're done. I'm going to go everywhere and tell them that you supported a monster.
Well, and the bottom line too is right now, this story that has just been told, the way you asked the questions, the way she answered the questions, raw truth right there exposes and dismantles the entire lie that they've been telling all along. But first and foremost, even if she did it, and I talked about this in the last interview, even if she did whatever they're saying she did, they can't even put a finger on it. But even if she alienated the kids. This is the abuse she has to endure in her children. This is the punishment. That's the crime. So suddenly alienating a child from a parent has suddenly become mass murder on a grand scale.
Correct.
So you need to pay for the rest of your life into your grandchildren and your grandchildren's children for what you did. Give me a
I'll point out one last thing. David Rucky on 2020 claimed he wanted the mother in their lives. He then proceeded to take out a restraining order which forbids her from ever seeing her kids and her grandkids.
I know this.
Completely illegal restraining order signed by the same judge, Karen Asbog.
He stop this. If his words were true, David Rucky, if your words were true, I knew, but by looking at you on that, I watched you on that TV screen right there. I knew you were a liar from the second I laid eyes on you.
If 2020 had any ethics, they would point out that he took out this restraining order despite saying that to them on national television. So what he does is he gives the public one thing and then does something behind the scenes because he knows that he won't be exposed, except on this program. Well, I lost Sam, but and look, folks, if you want to call her by her real name, it's Sam. That's what she goes by. But thank you for having us, and hopefully this does go viral.
We're going to make it go viral, everybody. Make sure that this video goes viral. We thank you, and if anybody wants to be on the show, please go to the website at punishthefour beingaparent.com and spread the word. Thank you very much, and thanks for having us again, Ted.
Thank you. I do want to throw something else out there. There was the fathers, a certain group, fathers' rights activists in the mid-90s that has absolutely nothing to do with the current social media version, TFRM and Thomas Fiddler. So I was a little upset that he mentioned Thomas in that way, because I have absolutely nothing but respect for Mr. Fiddler, and I just want to make sure I threw that out there because they give us a lot of support in getting videos out. The social media platform has over 400,000 likes. That's just their main page, and then the state pages have hundreds and hundreds of thousands more likes, and generally the men in that group are egalitarian. They understand that this is men and women, but it's the name. It's really the name that's getting them the hits. There are extreme members, of course. In any group, you'll have extreme members, and it's the same on the opposite side as well. And my goal has been to try to get these two larger groups of men and women together, working together. That's been my goal. So
I don't personally know him, and I don't when that got thrown out there, I couldn't say it one way or the other because I don't know him personally, but I get great support from fathers' rights.
I have nothing but respect for Thomas Fiddler and the fathers' rights movement. As a whole, they're working side by side with mothers for equal shared parenting.
I've never had a problem personally. So if anything, I've gotten probably more embracing from them than some of the moms. So
well, we're all in this together, and if we alienate one side, we're alienating half of our support. So
the other thing is I don't know if he's specific. If I don't know this person, so I'm not going to say because I wouldn't. That would be wrong, and I don't do that. But I don't. What he was saying is that this person was actually targeting against Sandra. Now that doesn't really make sense if we're supportive of her, but I don't know. I don't know it. I haven't heard it myself, and I think you know how I am. Right. I don't do anything or say anything until I find out the truth. So.
Yeah, I don't know those specifics either. Why, if they had a falling out or what happened there, but it's too bad that something negative like that happened. If it did, and maybe I could actually put myself on the screen. Maybe I could help mend that bridge or get people to understand both sides. Because it's
possible. Maybe he just thought the 2020 version was the true version, and needs to be corrected. And I don't know. Like I said, I don't know him. I don't know him at all. So we can find out what that was more about. But,
I've never brought Thomas on the show, and on my show, and maybe that's something we can do to help clear any of that.
Yeah, obviously
confusion
this
up.
mom needs, and you know, because you've interviewed her before too,
Yeah.
and she definitely needs support
Oh,
more than
yes.
everybody. And this is so wrong. I mean, beyond.
Horrible situation that Sandra is in. She is completely impoverished because of the courts.
So
And
unfair.
it's a very good example, and so was I. I would be completely homeless right now if my folks weren't around. So I totally understand. We are in, her case is very, very much worse than mine, but I can empathize because the courts destroyed both our lives. Different situations, man, woman, but it's the same thing. They're doing the exact same thing. And when we get situations where the courts pit one side against the other, which that's what they do, they divide us. And my goal is hopefully
that's what we're trying to remove completely ourselves.
Right.
That's what we're trying.
What happened here. So, anyways, thank you, Fran. Sorry to interrupt. I just had to say something there.
No, that's good. I mean, it's good because we want to make sure we keep things, you know, we're trying to build bridges here, not, you know, burn them down. And it's important. It's very important. And we're on the same page with that. You know that. So,
yeah.
Yes. I mean, I'm taken off guard sometimes during interviews. So can I tell you, I know you are too.
Oh yeah, it happens. But
so,
thank you, Fran.
Francesca. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll get this on the playlist right now. Thank you so much.
Good night.
Bye. Good night, everyone.